don't want my kids to start their life already behind. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Internet. This is Vladimir Nemchinov with InvestSteady.com. I'm hoping you're joining me on your ride to work or to the gym, or you're pumping some iron right now. Welcome, welcome. Today, while going through the wealth game, we will be talking about specific level saving for kids' education. Okay, that's the point of the starting line. Is kids that graduating from college have a lot of debt, and a lot of times they don't even make a lot of money. Occasionally we play the game of life with kids, and of course there are two paths. You can go to college or you can just start the job. And what I do, I always go opposite of what my kids do. If they say college, I go career. I don't go to college. And I try to beat them, of course. I mean, obviously, the point of the game. And that is, that's the game of life. And in life, of course, it is the same. We can go to college or we cannot go to college. I have gone to college 3 years. I did not graduate. It was back in Kazakhstan, and I came here to America and I stayed here. Arguably, there is, for me, even some benefits from that. Of course, you learn to learn, and that's, I think, the biggest thing you can learn in college is education, and you can improve that on your own, regardless or apart from any school. Now, what do I think about college versus no college for my kids? At this point, I don't think it's necessary. At this point, I would like to build a business with my kids. That's maybe a long-term goal. But for them going to college, I want to give them an option too. And that's why I want to start 529. We have not started it yet, but this is the next step. And that's what I want to do for them, to give them this option, okay? So we ourselves are following the wealth game, and we just start maxing out our Roth IRA, putting 15% of our income into a Roth IRA so far. Next step would be starting 529 for our kids, and maybe I'll talk to my wife. Maybe this year will be the year we'll start. Our oldest is 8.5 years old, and our youngest is about to turn 6 years old. So, good time to start. Okay, so let's see what I got here. When it makes sense to start saving for your kids. It makes sense once your debt is under control and you're consistently investing for your own retirement. Okay, so wealth game levels are made for this point to make it easier and to get all of us, myself included, to a wealth building place. Okay, so step number one is to create budget. Without budget, you don't know how much you can put into 529, right? Second step is protect yourself. Obviously, you're thinking about kids. You do need to have life insurance to protect your income. Okay. Not whole life, not any universal something investing, including insurance, but term life insurance. Okay, you need help with that? Let me know. Step number three: once you got that protection for your family in case something happens to you, next step would be save up $1,000 of emergency fund or start an emergency fund. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. I got to restart my camera. So sorry about that. Step number three is starting the beginning emergency fund. Beginner emergency fund over $1,000. Oh my goodness! Today is the day, huh? $1,000. Before you do anything else, you want to have that in the emergency fund. And level number four is to pay off your consumer debt. Okay. Level number five is to fully fund your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of your expenses. Okay, so number 6 is to start contributing in retirement 15% of your income. Okay, of all your gross income goes into retirement. Roth IRA first. Well, if you have a company that's match first, let's say 6%, right? The rest goes to Roth IRA, and if you make more than that, then you put over any overages back into 401k. Okay, you need help with Roth IRA or IRA? Let me know. After that is down payment on the house. Okay, if you don't have a house yet, that's the time to take, and you can take it simultaneously. You can do it together depending on your income and your margin. Okay, but you can pause your retirement for a year or two. I wouldn't pause it for any longer to save for down payment on the house. Okay, once you have a house, you can now start contributing to retirement again, and then would be 529 for kids. Okay, you do want to have your retirement going before you start putting into 529. Okay, so that is when it makes sense to save for kids. Okay, you want to be set up, you want to have mask on yourself before you put it on your child. Okay, you cannot borrow money for, a lot of people say, you cannot borrow money for your retirement, but kids can borrow for their education. So they will be fine. I do not recommend borrowing for education, period. That's why I want to give them this option by providing the money that I put away for them for education. Okay, so now, what I was going to say next. That's when you start saving for your kids' education. Okay, how this fits after retirement investing, not before. Well, that is the point. Like I said, people say that, they can borrow. And in fact, you cannot do anything if you don't have retirement. So you need to get that going before you start thinking and worrying about kids' education. Okay, why even small amounts make a real difference? Time does the heavy lifting, and small contribution grow into meaningful money when they have years to compound. That's why starting right now, when they're young, when they were just born, is a very good idea, because the time will compound the finances. If you just put a little bit, let alone you put a chunk or a couple $1,000s up front, and it's going to give that compounding to grow all these years until they're ready for college. How this step changes your family financial trajectory. It reduces the debt your kids start with and give them more freedom in their early adult life. Again, advise against getting any debt for education. So it's not only decreasing the debt, it's helping them to start at zero, okay, not negative. Because a lot of people, and I'm sure you know a lot of adults that still pay their student loans. They're 50s and they pay their student loan because they didn't prioritize, because they do pay all this interest for years and years. I never had student loan debt. We were paying as we go. My dad was paying for my education. My wife, though, had some student loans when we got married, and our goal was to pay it off before our firstborn was born, and we actually paid it a month before. She had $20,000. She didn't put any more on accommodation or a living situation or dorm or anything like that. She went to community college. She got dental hygienist education, and it's very good return on your investment, basically. Her school didn't cost her more than $20,000, maybe 22, something like that. But a lot of people, even she even had assistants who had twice as much debt as she had, and they were getting paid a third of what her salary was. So yeah, people just go to college, they have fun, they buy cars with that money, they pay for rent for this money, and then that's how they get into this debt, and then it's hovering over their life for a long, long time. Of course, this is the level of the wealth game is when you pay it off, is when you pay all the consumer debt. That's why sometimes it takes too long, depending on, or very long, depending on how much you have in your student loans. It's definitely a lot of times is the biggest item, a line item. Although cars these days are pretty expensive as well. Okay, welcome guys to this morning live with Vladimir Nemchinov. I'm grateful you joining. Let's talk finances before you get to work. Maybe it'll prime you and pump you up for the day to come, and maybe for this year. Maybe you will make some changes in your financial map, and you will join the wealth game that I'm playing with my family. All right, let's get to some questions that nobody asked me. How much to save in 529? To make a long story short, my almost 7-year-old has $72,000 in her 529. We have saved $400 a month since she was born. Is this enough? Are we on track? Thanks. Well, how do we find out if we're on track? It's hard to predict, of course, but there are some calculations that we can make. Of course, you remember schools are different as well. You know, if you want them to go to Harvard, it's going to be a lot of money. And maybe in this case, you're not on track. But generally, 72 rule, if interest that you make, you divide 72 by the interest you make on your investments. Let's say it's S&P 500, and we go with modest 10% return annually. That means 72 divided by 10 would be 7.2 years is how long it's going to take your money to double. That's what the rule of 72 is. So $42,000 will double in 7 years. So by the time she will be 14, you will have $82,000, $84,000, and that without you adding any more. But if you're still putting $400, man, that's going to be way more than that. And again, in 7 years, by age 21, she will have now $164,000, okay, at 10%. So this is definitely a lot of money for education. I'm sure there's calculators that you can look up and to figure out how much. You also can figure out state school will be pennies compared to some big schools, you know. But generally, people do not look for, oh, what's your education? If you're a doctor, you're a doctor. Well, you probably need different education for that. But nobody's asking for school. Did you ask your doctor what school did they go to? Not really. You go to a hospital, there's a doctor. You kind of assume that they're educated, and so hopefully they are. So how much contribute? Again, for me, I need to talk to my wife about that first. But after we do our maxing out of Roth IRA, which increased this year to $7,500, and if you're over 50 years old, it's going to be $8,600, I believe, a year. So remember, you can still contribute to the previous year, and you can max it out, and I recommend it to max it out. We did it throughout the year, so we don't need to do that. But if you haven't, max it out. It's tax-free growth on your after-tax investments. So one of the best vehicles, obviously. Not better than free match from your employer. Anyways, so after that, my goal is right now, but I can talk to my wife, of course, whatever we need to find a margin in our budget after we do investments. Okay, how much are we going to put? There's two of them. Okay, one is 8, one is almost 6. So is it $100 a month? Is it 200? We probably can't swing 200. We'll see. But we need to talk. We need to look at the budget, and we see, and that's how I plan to figure out how much I want to put towards them. It's more of what I can do versus, oh, I must put this much for them and then cut down on my food budget or anything like that. Okay, so we, in my opinion, the parents are priority. We do not live for our kids. Some people think that, some people do that. It's not what I believe. All right, let's look at the next one. 529 plans, are they worth it? Are people still utilizing the 529 plans for their children? I'm torn on whether or not to start one. I can see benefits in both going to college and not going to college. think joining a trade like electrician. So college specifically isn't something I would push, and I'm not sure what happens to the funds in other instances. Like will it be subject to high taxes if my child didn't use it for college? Edit to address a frequently asked question. I am beating goals for retirement savings in combining Roth and 401k and planning on continuing adding to these funds at the same rate. Emergency fund is a 6 months gross pay, so can easily cover bills for 8+ months, depending on how much I cut back in case of job loss. Either savings goals are on their way to being achieved. Kitchen remodel in 1 to 2 years. Okay, so this is a very good example of person following the wealth game, step by step. Their education is very good. Their steps are sorry, I was distracted. There's somebody's calling my phone, but they're doing good. They're investing into their retirement. Okay, they have emergency fund. That's overkill. I'm very conservative, and it's 6 months for me of minimal really expenses, like what I need to survive on, not everything that we need. But now they're asking about 529. Of course, it's worth it. Yes, there are some things that we need to be conscious of. What if child doesn't want to go? Again, I'm not pushing the college. By no means. I don't even think we need to, but I want to give them this option, or give them that choice when times come to it. And that's why I'm looking into it. So it's definitely worth it. You can decide what you're going to do with the money. It can be used for education, mostly for accommodation. Like if they're living in the dorm, it can be used for that. Going more into depth, probably I should do one live specifically about cons and pros of 529 so we can all learn. But meanwhile, for mere mortals like myself, I just want to add that to my wealth building game, my wealth game, so I can give option to my children to go to college if they would like that. Okay. So now let's look at this one. I wish I had never opened 529. We have one child who is now 32. Back in 2006, we funded 45K into T. Rowe Price 529 plan. I made a mistake when opening the account in my son's name with him named as account holder and beneficiary and myself as a custodian. This mistake was caught in 2012. And through TRP, I moved the funds over to account in my name with my son as a beneficiary. In 2012, when he graduated at 19 years old, he wanted nothing to do with going to college or any other institution qualified to use these funds. Okay, so this is definitely a risk. Children might not want that. And again, in my opinion, I just want to give them options. Like in this case, this kid definitely had options. He worked various jobs in the restaurant industry and at 21 moved out of our house. He worked his way up in restaurant industry but has discovered this is not the career he wants. He and his girlfriend want to get married but not sure if they want kids. In 2024, I helped him set up a Roth at TRP and transferred $7,500 and $7,500 in 2025 from the 529 under the assumption that the money has been in his name either as account holder or beneficiary for over 15 years. Did I screw up doing this? And if so, there a way to fix it? The account is now whopping $185,000. So as always, in the worst case scenario, what can happen is you'll have to pay taxes on that money. The benefit of this account is that you put money there. I believe before tax. Need to double check on that. Let's ask ChatGPT. Let's see. 529. Do I put money there before taxes? All right, let's see while ChatGPT figuring that out. The answer is no. Money going to 529 is after tax. It does not come out of your paycheck pre-tax like 401k. Oh boy, a lot of calls this morning already. All right, it's going to be a busy day for me today at work. It was a pretty busy one yesterday. Okay, so you put the money you've already paid federal tax on. The money grow tax-free. Withdrawals are tax-free if used for qualified education expenses. A couple of important nuances people miss. Some states give you a state tax deduction or credit for contributions. That's state level, not federal. Because of the after-tax money, you generally should not prioritize 529 over paying off consumer debt. Okay, that's obvious. Okay, so yes, so the money goes in fact after tax. So I'm assuming you can take out the contributions without any problems, but the growth on actual contributions, that will probably be penalized, or should have asked that as well. There will be some consequences with that, but there's a lot of ways that you can still use that money. They can be used for somebody else, like your nephews or something like that. So it's definitely, in my opinion, it's a good problem to have. Again, I'm risking potentially being in this situation, but the upside of that is I'm giving my children options to go to college. That's how I look at it. Okay. Next question. Welcome if you're just joining us. Am I being overly aggressive with 529? Have a 4-year-old and a 8-month-old, starting a 529 for each when they were born. When the first was born, put 500 a month in just cause it seems like a nice round number, and with college costs growing so aggressively, seemed nice. So the new kid gets 500 as well. The market has been on a tear for the past several years. If no one has noticed, so now the older one has over 30K saved. I mean, again, that's a good problem to have. I told my buddy this, and he thought it was insane. Is there a downside to paying huge sums or downside of having huge sums in a 529? I realized you can only spend it in education. Should I be splitting this up between 529 and something else, IRA? Doing the math, assuming 6% annual return for the next 14 years means that account would be at 200,000K. Is that insane? Looking at future cost of college, tuition, room, board, it seems like that's reasonable. Okay, so yes, again, that's a good problem to have, right? 200K, that's definitely can fund their college, but 15 years later, it might not be enough because of inflation and government okaying universities to increase the how much the tuition costs, with all these debts going up and up and up. And this is the choice that you need to make and gamble that you need to make, and these are the variables. You can put a little bit, but it might not be enough, which is okay. I think kids should work for it and take a gap year and make some money and start college then, or start college and do a side jobs or a job, full-time job. I think that's what I would like my kids to do, but my kids are young as well. Again, Roth IRA is different than 529. You could potentially just open a market. Obviously, after all retirement contributions, you can open market account and just put money in there. You will have to pay taxes. That's the downside compared to 529. You'll have to pay taxes on all the growth on it. But tax-free, 529 would be tax-free. So you just need to figure out that between it's not enough or it's too much. Okay, going on to the next one. If you're just joining us, welcome this cold morning in Cleveland, Ohio. We're talking about 529 for kids. My wife and I started contributing to 529 late, about 5 years ago. In hindsight, a small amount since we hoped our daughter would go to an in-state public school. However, she just got accepted to NYU, where she will likely be attending. We have only accrued about 45 in the account, which won't even cover half a year. Okay, so this is another question along with the 529 and going to college. If you have $45,000, you need to understand at 18 years old, your child is an adult. Maybe not fully developed yet, but they're an adult. They can do whatever they want. You cannot control them. You can tell them that, okay, here's a 45K. In your case, you can spend it on half a year in NYU, or you can have a full education in whatever in-state, wherever they live, and it's up to the child then. Of course, I want to train my children in the way we should walk when they're adults, but I cannot control. I can control on this side of 18 years old. Some of it, especially when they're younger, and the control, I think, will dissipate. I do not obviously have experience. My kids are young. If you have older kids, you have lived with that. But my plan and strategy right now is to educate them in a way that they will respect me, hopefully, But then this choice, they can go out of college. They will understand now they have to either work too much to afford New York University, NYU, or they will have to take a cheaper school, a different school, when they can graduate, have no debt, and just get the job and start their career and adulthood in a job at work. Okay, so this is the legitimate question. You have no control over that. Okay, wondering whether it's worth it to continue putting money into 529, or whether we should just put money in our taxable account to pay for school. Well, 529, of course, will be tax beneficial in a tax way. You're not going to pay taxes on the growth. But you're not going to keep up with her expenses. It took you 5 years to save up $45,000. That's less than half a year in NYU. You're not going to keep up, so it doesn't matter. But 529 is definitely more advantageous. But there will be not enough growth or anything to compound the growth since you have looking at a small timeline. So there is that. All right, let's go to the next question. Where is the next question? I want to start 529 plan for my kid who is about to turn 11 years old. I'm late in the game. How do I catch up? My daughter will be 11 years old this year. I know I should have started this years ago, but honestly, I wasn't making much money back then. And that's the thing. Don't feel bad about that. You can only do what you can do. If you have a lot of debt, do not start 529. Pay off all the debt, because those are your choices. Now you are in debt because of your choices. Now you need to get out of them. Don't feel bad. This is your choice. This is the consequences. I'm teaching my little kids that we make choices and we reap the consequences. And these were your choices, to go in debt, or not necessarily. Maybe you didn't have debt. Maybe you just didn't have enough income or high enough income, and now you're in a better place. It is what it is. Again, don't feel sorry for yourself. You only can do what you can do. When money is slim, keeping up with monthly living expenses are more important than 3-month-old baby's college savings. Exactly. And don't beat yourself up for it. You didn't start late. You started when you could. And that's exactly the point. But now I'm making more money. Life is good, and I want to prepare for the future, but I have 7-8 years left. How do I do this? Again, it comes from what you can afford. Can you afford $1,000? If you can afford $1,000 a month to put into college, that's gonna grow rather faster than if you put $100 a month. Okay, if you put $10,000 at one lump sum and then add monthly, that's gonna grow even faster and will be worth even more. I can just start now and trying to put a lot in every month, or I'm thinking of front loading it with a large amount and add a little every month from there and let it sit and let the compounding interest grow. My only concern with this is time. Time is not on my side, since I'm already 10, 11 years late in the game. You are not late. That's the point you just made yourself. You're not late. This is when you can afford. That's when you do it. For example, you're asking about a lump sum. I don't have a lump sum. I have my emergency fund. I'm not going to put that in 529. Okay, this is emergencies for our family. Okay, so therefore, once I'm in the point in my game that I'm maxing out my 15% of retirement into Roth IRA in our case, okay, we already have a house, so we don't need a down payment. And then next step would be 529. Okay, so I figure out now monthly from my income how much can I contribute towards 529. Is it $100? Is it $1,000? It's irrelevant to me how old the kids are. You know what I mean? I couldn't have done it earlier, so now I'm doing it now, and it is what it is. It's just gonna be a cherry on top. It's gonna be optional money for them to go to college or school if they wish. Right now, I'm in state tuition. Right now, in-state tuition is about $11,000 annually. You see, $11,000 a year for $50,000. You can have education, 4-year education in state. I'm not sure that will be in 2032. I'm not sure either. I was thinking $100,000 in college savings is ideal. Not sure how I can get there. Or I could just forget the whole thing and make equity out my home to pay for college. Ooh, do not take equity out of your home to pay for college, because you need your retirement. I have only one child, by the way. What do you guys think? All right, so pretty much I shared all my thoughts as we went. For all of you out there, don't feel bad you're starting late. There is no late. This is when you can afford it, and that's when you do it. Okay, so she mentioned the lump sum. If you have earmarked $50,000 for kids' education, yes, put it in. But if you don't, it's going to be monthly income from your job that you can portion of it put into 529. Do that, and do it monthly. Again, time in the market beats the timing in the market. Okay, dollar cost average is going to average out, and you will get ahead. So this, guys, that's what I wanted to talk about this morning. It's not earth-shattering. Again, I want to be blessing to my kids. I did not have this opportunity. My dad did pay for me. I guess it's similar. He was paying us was $1,000 a year. Oh my goodness, for college for 3 years. But he's making $400 a month. So it's different overseas, of course. I guess, in a sense, he did give me this opportunity. He paid for my college, whether 529 or not. We didn't have something like that. So we just cash flowed it in his case. But I want to offer that to my kids. And it's going to be hard to cash flow even $11,000. It's $1,000 a month. I cannot afford that from my employer, my salary, right? But if I put away a little bit right now, a little bit is going to grow. We can definitely afford $11,000 by then. All right. I appreciate all of you who stopped by to join me in this cold morning in Cleveland. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. We will talk more about finances to get us on this wealth game to get wealthier. Because time will pass. What we do with that time, and during this time, we can pay for our choices, or we can get paid for our choices, which I prefer former, and hence my real estate portfolio. Thank you, guys. Invest steady and compound.